Tycoon left wife for mistress. At the gala, saw her on the red carpet with their child. Isabella, dressed in soft ivory silk, the color of peace, of surrender, sat motionless. Her hands, once graceful extensions of her ballet career, now rested in her lap, trembling slightly. She had known something was coming. The late nights, the perfume on his collar, not hers. The way he stopped kissing her fordata before bed. But knowing and hearing were galaxies apart. "I've thought about this a long time," Adrian began, voice low, polished, corporate. "And I think it's time we acknowledge the truth." She didn't flinch, didn't cry, not yet. She simply looked at him, really looked, as if memorizing the man she had loved, the father of her child, the architect of her dreams, and her undoing. "What truth, Adrian?" Her voice was barely above a whisper, but it cut through the room like a blade. "That you're bored? That she's younger? That you've decided love has an expiration date?" He shifted, uncomfortable. "It's not about her. Not entirely. It's about us. We've become roommates, partners in logistics, not lovers." Isabella let out a breath, slow, deliberate. "You stopped trying. You stopped coming home. You stopped asking how my day was. You stopped holding my hand. And now you call that us failing? No, Adrian. You failed. Not us. You." He looked down at his hands. Hands that had signed billion-dollar deals. Hands that had once cradled their newborn son. Hands that now felt foreign to him. "I'm not happy, Isabella," he said, finally meeting her eyes. "And I don't think I can pretend anymore." She stood, slowly, gracefully, like she was still on stage, performing the most tragic role of her life. "And what about Leo?" Her voice cracked, just once. "What about his happiness? His birthdays? His nightmares? His first heartbreak? You'll be there for those too? Or just the photo ops?" Adrian stood as well, instinctively, as if rising to meet a challenge. "You'll have everything. The penthouse, the trust fund, full custody if you want it. I'll pay for private schools, tutors, vacations." "Stop." She held up a hand. "You think this is about money? About assets? Adrian, this is about presence, about love, about showing up. You're offering me a gilded cage and calling it freedom." He didn't know what to say. For the first time in his life, the man who commanded boardrooms, who silenced critics with a glance, was speechless. Isabella walked to the window, her reflection ghostly against the city lights. "Do you remember our first apartment? The one with the leaky faucet and the broken heater? You used to wrap me in blankets and tell me stories until I fell asleep. You said, 'One day, Isabella, I'll give you the world.'" She turned to face him, tears finally spilling, silent, dignified. "I didn't want the world. I just wanted you. And you gave me everything except yourself." Adrian felt something crack inside his chest. Something he didn't have a name for. Guilt? Regret? Grief? He wasn't sure. All he knew was that the man he thought he was, powerful, untouchable, in control, was crumbling under the weight of her sorrow. "I'm sorry," he whispered. She nodded as if she'd expected nothing more, and nothing less. "Don't be sorry for leaving," she said softly. "Be sorry for not fighting for us. Be sorry for making Leo choose between his parents. Be sorry for forgetting what love really costs." She walked past him then, toward the hallway, toward the bedroom where their son slept, unaware that his world was fracturing. "Isabella," Adrian reached for her arm. She didn't pull away. She just stopped, and without turning, she said the words that would haunt him for years. "When you see her, tell her I hope she's worth it. Not to you, to Leo." And then she was gone. The door to their bedroom clicked shut, a sound so small, so final. Adrian stood alone in the dining room, the untouched meal between them like a monument to everything they'd lost. The rain outside grew heavier. The city lights blurred through the glass. He poured himself a glass of champagne, the Dom Perignon they'd saved for their 10th anniversary, and drank it in one long, burning swallow. He told himself he was doing the right thing. He told himself he deserved happiness. He told himself she would recover. But as he sat there, in the echoing silence of a home that no longer felt like one, a single thought slithered into his mind. Quiet, venomous, undeniable. What have I done? Weeks passed. Lawyers were hired. Papers were signed. The penthouse was divided not evenly, but clinically. Isabella took only what mattered. Leo's baby shoes, their wedding album, the necklace he'd given her on their first Valentine's Day. She left the designer dresses, the diamond earrings, the sports cars. She left the life and took the soul. Adrian moved into a sleek, minimalist apartment downtown. All steel and glass, no memories. Sophia moved in within the month. She redecorated, reorganized, replaced. She laughed louder, dressed bolder, posted more. She was everything Isabella wasn't. Vibrant, hungry, unapologetically ambitious. And for a while, Adrian convinced himself it was enough. But at night, when Sophia slept beside him, her breathing even, her dreams untroubled, he would lie awake, staring at the ceiling, hearing Isabella's voice. Be sorry for forgetting what love really costs. He didn't understand it then. Not until the gala. Not until he saw her. Not until he saw them. The invitation had arrived in thick, cream-colored paper, embossed with gold. Volkov Humanitarian Gala, black tie, red carpet, 8 p.m. Adrian had smiled when he sent it. A celebration of his new foundation, his new life, his new future with Sophia on his arm, radiant, triumphant. He imagined the photos, him powerful, her dazzling, the press calling them the couple redefining modern philanthropy. He didn't imagine Isabella. He didn't imagine Leo. He didn't imagine the way his heart would stop when he turned toward the entrance of the grand ballroom and saw her. Not broken, not bitter, but breathtaking. She wore red, not just any red, the red of fire, of warning, of resurrection. The dress hugged her like a second skin, elegant and fierce, slit high on one leg, neckline plunging just enough to whisper confidence, not seduction. Her hair, once always pulled back in a neat bun, cascaded in dark waves over one shoulder. Her lips, painted the same shade as her dress, were pressed into a calm, unreadable line. And beside her, Leo, their son, 8 years old, hair combed, tiny black bow tie perfectly centered, small hand tucked securely into his mother's. He didn't smile for the cameras. He didn't wave. He walked with the solemn dignity of a child who had learned too early what betrayal felt like. The crowd parted like the sea before royalty. Photographers, who moments before had been shouting Sophia's name, now swiveled, lenses clicking, flashes exploding. As Isabella stepped onto the red carpet, Adrian's breath caught. Sophia's grip on his arm tightened, nails digging in. "Who let her in?" she hissed. Adrian didn't answer, because in that moment he wasn't seeing his ex-wife. He was seeing the woman he had abandoned, the mother of his child, the ghost of his conscience. And she was walking toward him, not with rage, not with tears, but with quiet, devastating power. Leo looked up at him, just once, and in that glance, Adrian saw everything. Disappointment, confusion, a flicker of longing, and then nothing, a shutter closing. Isabella didn't stop, didn't speak, didn't even glance his way. She walked past him, close enough that he caught the scent of her perfume. Jasmine and vanilla, the same one she'd worn on their wedding night. And as she passed, the whispers began. Is that her? The ex? She looks incredible. And the boy, he's with her? Sophia forced a smile, waving at the cameras, but her voice trembled as she leaned into Adrian's ear. Control this, now. But Adrian couldn't move, couldn't speak, couldn't breathe, because for the first time in years he felt small. Not because she screamed, not because she cried, but because she didn't need to. She had walked into his world, the world he'd built without her, and reminded everyone with a single step that some things money can't buy. Dignity, motherhood, love that doesn't leave. And as the cameras flashed and the crowd murmured and Sophia seethed beside him, Adrian Volkov, Tycoon, Titan, self-made king, realized with crushing clarity. He hadn't left her. He had lost her, and nothing. Not his fortune, not his foundation, not his new fiancée, could fill the space she left behind. The gala hadn't even begun, and already he had lost. The night was young, but for Adrian, felt like the end, and the beginning, of everything. Certo, agora tu como narrador e storyteller desenvolva a historia sem marcacos com o nome de cada tópico que for desenvolve. Mi conti sobrio tópico tu com dialogo como su fosso espectador. Sempre lembrando de desenvolver com vida moco. Com muitos sentimentos de forma que a estrutura de narrativa utiliza uma linha temporal linear de modo o espectador sentir o que o personagem está sentindo amigos. Com 6.000 characters com 3 max. Preview. The memory didn't knock. It slipped in quiet, uninvited. As Adrian stood alone in the empty penthouse, staring at the framed photograph on the marble mantel. Him, her, Leo, barely 1 year old, cradled in Isabella's arms, his tiny fingers curled around her necklace. The three of them smiling under the Tuscan sun. A lifetime ago, he reached for the frame, thumb brushing over Isabella's face, her eyes bright, her smile wide, unburdened. Back then, she still believed in fairy tales, in forever, in him. He didn't realize he was crying until the first tear hit the glass. It started with small things, the missed recitals, the forgotten anniversaries, the nights he came home after midnight, smelling of whiskey and boardroom cigars, collapsing into bed without a word. Isabella never complained. Not at first. She'd leave his dinner covered in the oven, warm towels by the tub after his late showers, notes on the pillow, proud of you, sleep well, I love you. She thought love was patience, sacrifice, waiting. She didn't know love could starve. You're working late again? She asked one evening, standing in the doorway of his study, Leo asleep in her arms. The boy's head rested against her shoulder, thumb in his mouth, eyelashes fluttering in dream. Adrian didn't look up from his laptop. Big merger. Need to finalize the terms by morning. She stepped inside, barefoot, silent, placed a cup of chamomile tea beside his keyboard, the way she always did. You missed his first steps today. His fingers paused, just for a second. I'll make it up to him. Weekend trip. Disneyland. Whatever he wants. She didn't move. He waited for you, sat by the window for 2 hours, kept saying, Daddy's coming. Daddy promised. Adrian finally looked up, saw the exhaustion in her eyes, the quiet hurt. He reached for her hand. Bella, I'm building something. For us. For him. One day, he'll understand. She pulled her hand away gently. He's won, Adrian. He doesn't need a legacy. He needs his father. He sighed, rubbing his temples. You think I don't know that? You think I want to miss this? But if I don't do this now, we won't have a future. Do you want him growing up in that tiny apartment again? Sharing a bathroom with strangers? Worrying if there's enough for groceries? Her voice dropped to a whisper. We were happy in that apartment. We laughed more. You held me more. You looked at me like I was your whole world. He stood then, frustration boiling over. That was before reality hit. Before I realized dreams don't pay for private schools or ballet lessons or medical emergencies. I'm doing this for you. For me. She let out a soft, broken laugh. Then why do I feel so alone? He didn't have an answer. She turned to leave, Leo still sleeping against her chest. Isabella. She stopped but didn't turn. I'll be home early tomorrow. Promise. She nodded, said nothing, walked away. That was the last time he made a promise he intended to keep. Months passed, then years. The ballet studio she once owned, the one with the mirrored walls and the squeaky floorboards where she taught neighborhood kids for free, closed its doors. Rent got too high. Adrian offered to pay. She refused. I won't let you buy my passion, she told him. But you're giving it up, he argued. No, she said, folding a leotard into a drawer. I'm letting it rest. Until I can breathe again. He didn't understand. He was too busy climbing. Leo's third birthday. Balloons. Cake. A magician hired at triple the rate. Adrian arrived at 7:45 p.m. The party ended at 8. Leo was already in pajamas, eyelids heavy, clutching a half-melted ice cream cone. "Daddy!" he squealed, running into Adrian's arms. Adrian lifted him, kissed his forehead. "Sorry I'm late, champ. Big meeting ran over." Leo nodded, used to it. "Did you see me blow out the candles?" "I saw the video, buddy. You were amazing." Isabella stood by the dessert table, wiping frosting off a plate. She didn't look at Adrian. Didn't need to. He felt her disappointment like a physical weight. Later, as guests left and the hired help cleaned up, Adrian found her alone on the balcony, staring at the skyline. "He waited for you," she said softly. "Again. I know. He doesn't cry anymore when you're late. He just accepts it." Adrian leaned on the railing beside her. "I'll do better." She turned to him then, eyes glistening. "You say that every time. And every time something more important comes up. What happens when he stops waiting? When he stops believing you'll show up?" Adrian opened his mouth, then closed it, because he didn't know. The final straw came on a Tuesday. Isabella had saved for months, teaching extra classes, skipping lunches, selling her grandmother's pearls, to surprise Adrian with tickets to Venice. A weekend, just the two of them. No phones, no emails, no emergencies. She wrapped the tickets in silver paper, tied with a velvet ribbon, left them on his pillow with a note. "Remember us?" He came home at 1 a.m., saw the gift, smiled, then opened his laptop. At 3 a.m., she woke to the glow of the screen, his fingers flying across the keyboard. "Adrian," she whispered. "The tickets." He didn't look up. "Can't go. Tokyo deal. Need to fly out Thursday." She sat up, heart pounding. You promised me, Adrian. Just one weekend. One." He finally looked at her, weary, distracted. "Bella, this deal is worth $500 million. It'll secure Leo's future. Can't you see that?" She stared at him, at the man she married, at the stranger in her bed. "No," she said, voice trembling. "I can't see you anymore." She got up, took the tickets, walked to the balcony, and dropped them over the railing. He watched them flutter down, 27 floors, swallowed by the city lights. "Isabella, don't," she whispered. "Just don't." She went to Leo's room, crawled into his tiny bed, held him close as he slept. And for the first time since she said, "I do," she let herself cry, not for what was lost, but for what was never truly found. After that, something shifted, not loudly, not dramatically, but deeply. Isabella stopped waiting by the window, stopped leaving his tea warm, stopped asking how his day was. She became quiet, polite, distant. She still made Leo's lunches, still kissed Adrian's cheek before he left for work, still smiled at dinner parties. But her eyes, those deep, expressive eyes that once sparkled when he walked into a room, were empty. And Adrian, he told himself it was fine, that this was the cost of success, that she'd come around, that love could wait, until the day he came home early, rare, unexpected, and found her in the living room, dancing, not performing, not teaching, just dancing, barefoot, hair loose, wearing an old rehearsal t-shirt and leggings. No music, just her, moving slowly, gracefully, arms floating like wings, feet gliding across the hardwood as if the floor remembered her. She didn't see him at first. She was lost in it, in the sway, the spin, the stretch, in the thing that made her her. And for a moment, Adrian forgot to breathe. He hadn't seen her like this in years. Alive, free, beautiful. He stepped forward and the floorboard creaked. She stopped, turned, saw him, and just like that, the light in her eyes dimmed. She lowered her arms, smoothed her shirt, offered a small, polite smile. "Hi, didn't hear you come in. You wanted to say something. Anything." You were stunning. I miss this. I miss you." Instead, he said, "Meeting ended early." She nodded. "Dinner's in the fridge," and walked past him. That night, Adrian lay awake, staring at the ceiling. He thought about the girl he fell in love with, the one who pirouetted in grocery store aisles, who laughed with her whole body, who believed in handwritten love letters and slow dances in the kitchen. He thought about the woman she'd become, silent, graceful, hollow, and he realized with a sinking dread that he hadn't just neglected her. He had erased her, piece by piece, dream by dream, dance by dance. The next morning he tried. He made breakfast, pancakes, scrambled eggs, fresh orange juice the way she liked it. Leo clapped. "Daddy cooked." Isabella walked in, paused at the sight, then smiled small but real. "Looks delicious." They ate together, laughed, talked about Leo's new teacher, the park, the weather. For 1 hour it felt like old times. Adrian dared to hope. Then his phone rang. Tokyo. Emergency call. He looked at Isabella, saw the flicker in her eyes, not anger, not sadness, resignation. "I'll be back by dinner," he promised. She didn't reply, just nodded. And as he grabbed his coat and rushed out the door, he didn't see her sink into a chair, didn't see her press her palms into her eyes, didn't hear her whisper, so softly only the walls could hear, "I can't do this anymore." That was the beginning of the end. Not with a fight, not with a scream, but with silence, with absence. Sleeves rolled, tie loose, commanding the room like a general. Voices argued, spreadsheets flashed, millions shifted with a signature. Then she walked in, Sophia Mendez, newly hired, head of strategic brand development, late 20s, sharp black blazer, legs that didn't apologize for their length, eyes that didn't look down, not even for him. She placed a tablet in front of him without a word, not deferential, not nervous, confident, like she belonged there before he did. "Final presentation for the Singapore campaign," she said, voice smooth, accent faintly Portuguese. "You'll want to see slide 7. He glanced at the screen, then at her, and for the first time in years, his mind went quiet. Not because she was beautiful. She was. Not because she was brilliant. She was that too. But because when she looked at him, really looked, she didn't see the tycoon. She didn't see the brand. She saw the man, and she wasn't afraid of him. "You're late," he said, voice low, testing. She didn't flinch. "I'm precisely on time. You started early. That's not my fault." A few executives shifted uncomfortably. "Adrian," he smiled, not the polite boardroom smile, the real one, the one Isabella used to pull from him with whispered jokes and slow kisses after midnight. He didn't realize he'd been starving for that, to be challenged, to be seen, to be felt. She didn't flirt, not at first. She argued. She pushed back. She rewrote his emails, corrected his grammar in front of clients, called his vision vague, called his strategy lazy, and he loved it. Not romantically, not yet, but emotionally. She made him feel awake, alive, needed. Late nights became routine, not because of deadlines, but because he wanted her there. Her laugh echoing down empty hallways, her perfume, amber and spice, lingering in his office after she left. The way she'd kick off her heels under the conference table and stretch her legs like she owned the room. One night, rain hammering the windows, they were the last two in the building. He offered her a drink. She accepted. Scotch. Neat. Like him. They sat on the leather couch in his private lounge, city lights painting streaks of gold across her cheekbones. "You're not what I expected," he said, swirling his glass. She smirked. Disappointed. Surprised. "You don't treat me like a god." "I don't believe in gods. Only men who pretend to be." He laughed. Real. Deep. Unexpected. "And what do you believe in?" She turned to him then. Eyes dark. Lips curved. "I believe in hunger. In ambition. In taking what you want before someone else does." He held her gaze. Too long. Too deep. Something passed between them. unspoken, electric. He looked away first. The first kiss happened in the elevator. Midnight, penthouse floor, just the two of them. The doors slid shut. The lights dimmed. She turned to him, adjusting his crooked tie. "You're a mess," she murmured. "So fix me." She did. One hand on his chest, the other in his hair, lips crashing into his like a reckoning. He didn't stop her. Didn't want to. It wasn't gentle. It wasn't sweet. It was fire. It was hunger. It was the first real thing he'd felt in years. When the elevator dinged at his floor, they broke apart, breathless, guilty, exhilarated. She stepped back first, smiled. "Don't look so shocked, Adrian. You wanted this." He didn't deny it. He just watched her walk away, hips swaying, heels clicking, knowing nothing would ever be the same. He told himself it was just physical, just stress, just a moment. But moments became meetings. Meetings became dinners. Dinners became hotel rooms. Hotel rooms became secrets whispered under silk sheets. He bought her things. Not extravagant, not yet. A scarf, a book, a vintage watch he found in Paris. She accepted them with a smirk. "Trying to buy my silence?" "No," he said, brushing her hair from her neck. "Trying to remind you you're mine." She laughed. "I'm not anyone's, not even yours." But she let him believe it. Isabella noticed. Not the affairs, not the lies, but the distance. The way he smelled different, her jasmine replaced by Sophia's amber. The way he checked his phone under the dinner table. The way he smiled. Not at her, not at Leo, but at some invisible thought that made his eyes soften in a way she hadn't seen in years. One night, as he scrolled through emails in bed, she lay beside him, staring at the ceiling. "Who is she?" she asked, voice quiet, calm, like she already knew. He froze, didn't look up. "Who?" "The woman you're texting at midnight." He exhaled, put the phone down. "It's work, Adrian." Her voice cracked, just once. "Don't lie to me, not after everything." He turned to her then, saw the pain, the quiet dignity, the love that still clung to her, even as it bled out. And for a heartbeat, he almost told her. Almost. But then he thought of Sophia's laugh, her fire, the way she made him feel like a man. Not a provider, not a father, not a CEO, just a man. "I'm tired, Isabella," he said, turning away. "Let's talk tomorrow." She didn't answer, didn't cry, just rolled onto her side, faced the wall, and let the silence swallow them whole. Weeks passed. The affair deepened. Sophia stopped pretending it was casual, started leaving lipstick on his collar, sending him voice notes that purred, "Miss you, come over," showing up at his office in dresses too tight, skirts too short, smiles too knowing. Adrian didn't stop her. He fed her, indulged her, let her redecorate his office, let her sit in on executive calls, let her whisper in his ear during meetings, her breath hot, her words sharp. She wasn't just his lover. She was becoming his shadow, his echo, his new world. Isabella, meanwhile, retreated. She stopped asking questions, stopped waiting up, started taking Leo to the park on weekends alone, started teaching ballet again, not in studios but in community centers, in church basements, anywhere they'd let her. She didn't confront him, didn't scream, didn't beg. She simply disappeared from his life while still living in it. And Adrian, he told himself it was easier this way, that she was being reasonable, that this was just how things were now. Until the night Sophia showed up at their home, unannounced, wearing his shirt, barefoot, hair tousled, smiling like she owned the place. Isabella opened the door, holding Leo's hand, frozen, staring. Sophia's smile didn't falter. "Oh, you must be Isabella. I've heard so much about you." Leo tugged his mother's hand. "Mommy, who's that lady?" Isabella didn't answer, didn't move, just looked at Adrian, standing behind Sophia in the hallway, shirtless, guilty, caught. And in that moment, something inside Isabella didn't break. It hardened, like ice, like stone. like armor forged in fire. She knelt beside Leo, smoothed his hair. "Go to your room, sweetheart. Mommy will be there in a minute." He hesitated. "But now, Leo, please." He ran off. Isabella stood, didn't shout, didn't cry, just looked at Sophia, then at Adrian. "You have 10 minutes to pack your things," she said, voice colder than winter, "and get out of my house." Sophia laughed. "This isn't your house. It's his." Isabella stepped forward, so close Sophia took a step back. "No," Isabella whispered. "It's mine, because I raised his child here. I cried here. I loved him here. And you?" She glanced at Sophia with quiet, lethal pity. "You're just passing through." Adrian tried to speak. "Isabella, please." 10 minutes, she repeated, turned, walked away. Sophia left, furious, humiliated, vowing revenge. Adrian followed her, not to stop her, but to chase her. Because in that moment, he didn't choose his wife. He didn't choose his son. He chose the fire, the thrill, the woman who made him feel alive, even if it meant burning everything else to the ground. That night, Isabella sat on Leo's bed, reading him a story. Her voice never wavered. Her hands never shook. She kissed his forehead, tucked him in, whispered, "I love you more than the moon, more than the stars, more than all the oceans." He smiled sleepily. "More than Daddy?" She paused, just for a breath. "Yes, baby," she whispered. "More than anyone." And Adrian? He spent the night in Sophia's penthouse. Silk sheets, champagne, whispered promises. He told himself it was freedom. He told himself it was happiness. He told himself he'd made the right choice. But as he lay beside her, listening to her even breathing, he kept seeing Isabella's face. Not angry, not crying, just gone, like she'd already left. And he realized, with a dread that coiled deep in his gut. Now the table was polished to a mirror shine. No juice stains, no laughter, just silverware arranged with surgical precision. 2 plates, 2 wine glasses, 1 untouched bottle of Bordeaux, the vintage they'd saved for their 10th anniversary. Never opened, never shared. Adrian sat across from her, fingers drumming the edge of his napkin. He'd rehearsed this moment in the shower, in the car, in the elevator ride up. He'd practiced the tone, calm, rational, final. He'd even Googled how to ask for a divorce respectfully, as if respect could stitch together what he was about to tear apart. Isabella didn't look at him. She stared at her plate, at the single rose in the crystal vase between them, red, wilting slightly at the edges. She'd placed it there herself, not for romance, for ritual, for closure. "I've thought about this a long time," he began, voice steady, rehearsed. "And I think it's time we acknowledge the truth." She didn't flinch, didn't cry, didn't even blink, just lifted her gaze, slow, deliberate, and met his eyes, not with anger, not with fear, with something worse, acceptance. "What truth, Adrian?" Her voice was soft, barely above a whisper, but it sliced through the room like a blade through silk. He swallowed. "That we're not happy, that we haven't been for a long time." She tilted her head, just slightly. "You're not happy, that's what you mean." He exhaled, frustrated. "Isabella, don't twist this. This isn't about blame. It's about honesty." Honesty. A ghost of a smile touched her lips, bitter, broken. "You want honesty? Then say it. Say you've fallen in love with her. Say you wake up wanting her voice, not mine. Say you'd rather build a future with someone who doesn't know Leo's favorite lullaby than stay with the woman who sang it to him every night for 8 years. He looked away, couldn't hold her gaze. "It's not just about Sophia." "Then what is it about?" Her voice cracked, just once. "Is it about me? Did I become boring? Too quiet? Too tired? Too motherly?" He stood abruptly, chair scraping against marble. "Stop this. You're making this harder than it has to be." She stood too, slowly, gracefully, like a dancer rising after a fall. "Harder for you, Adrian, not for me." I've been living in the hard for years. He paced to the window, hands in his pockets, staring at the skyline. The empire he built, the life he was dismantling. I'm not doing this to hurt you. I'm doing this because I can't pretend anymore. I can't keep living a lie. She stepped toward him, not close, but close enough that he could smell her perfume, jasmine and vanilla. The scent of their wedding night, the scent of Leo's first bath, the scent of everything he was throwing away. You're not ending a lie, she whispered. You're choosing a new one. He turned to her then, eyes blazing. What do you want from me? Huh? You want me to stay miserable? To rot beside you in this perfect, empty palace you call a marriage? Is that love? Or is that prison? Her breath hitched. Tears welled but didn't fall. I want you to remember. Remember holding Leo for the first time. Remember dancing with me in the kitchen at 2 a.m. Remember promising me, on your knees, that you'd never let go. That's what I want. Not your money, not your guilt, just you. He shook his head, voice breaking. That man doesn't exist anymore. She nodded. Slow, sad, final. Then you've already left. The papers are just paperwork. He froze. You knew. I've known since she walked into our home wearing your shirt. Her voice was steady now, cold. I've known since you stopped looking at me like I was your home. I've known. Since you stopped coming back. He didn't know what to say. The script was gone. The rehearsed lines useless. All that remained was the raw, ugly truth. I'll give you everything, he said, desperate now. The penthouse, the cars, the trust fund, full custody if you want it, private schools, summer homes, whatever you need. She held up a hand, stopped him. You still don't get it, do you? He stared at her. I don't want your money, Adrian. I want my husband. I want Leo's father. I want the man who used to tuck him in and whisper, I'm proud of you, not the ghost who signs checks and takes photos. He stepped toward her, reached for her hand. Isabella, please, don't make this harder. She pulled away. You're the one making it hard. By pretending this is mutual. By pretending this is noble. By pretending you're setting us free when all you're doing is running. He dropped his hand, voice low. Bro, I'm not happy. She looked at him, really looked, and for the first time he saw it. Not sadness, not anger, grief, deep, ancient, unhealable. And what about Leo? She asked, voice trembling now. What about his happiness? His birthdays? His nightmares? His first heartbreak? You'll be there for those too? Or just the photo ops? He opened his mouth, closed it. No answer. She turned away, walked to the hallway, stopped at Leo's door, slightly ajar, peeked in, saw him asleep, teddy bear clutched to his chest, one foot dangling off the bed. Adrian followed her, stood behind her, silent. She didn't turn around, just whispered. He still asks for you at bedtime, still saves you the last bite of his dessert, still draws pictures of the three of us, holding hands. Adrian's throat tightened. I'll still be in his life. I promise. She finally turned, eyes glistening. Promises don't mean anything to an 8-year-old, Adrian. Presence does. And you've already disappeared. She walked past him, close enough that her shoulder brushed his. He reached for her arm. She didn't pull away, just stopped. And without turning, she said the words that would haunt him for the rest of his life. When you see her, tell her I hope she's worth it. Not to you, to Leo. Then she walked into Leo's room, closed the door softly behind her. Adrian stood alone in the hallway. The silence pressed against his eardrums. The scent of her perfume lingered. The echo of her voice, quiet, lethal, wrapped around his heart like barbed wire. He walked back to the dining room, sat down, poured himself a glass of the Bordeaux, drank it in one long, burning swallow. The wine tasted like ash. The next morning, the papers arrived. Thick envelopes, legal font, cold, clinical language. Isabella signed them without reading, without hesitation, without tears. She packed her things, not much, Leo's baby shoes, the wedding album, the necklace he'd given her on their first Valentine's Day, the ballet shoes she'd worn on opening night, the things that couldn't be replaced, the things that mattered. Adrian watched from the doorway as she zipped the last suitcase. "You don't have to leave today," he said, voice hollow. She didn't look at him. "Yes, I do. Where will you go?" She finally turned, looked at him, not with hate, not with sorrow, with something worse, indifference. Somewhere Leo can breathe. He stepped forward. "Isabella, don't." She held up a hand. "Just don't." She walked past him, toward the elevator. Leo trotted beside her, clutching his stuffed dinosaur, eyes wide, confused. "Are we going on vacation, Mommy?" She knelt, kissed his forehead. "Something like that, baby." Adrian crouched beside them, tried to smile. "I'll come visit soon, okay? We'll go to the park. Get ice cream." Leo nodded, hugged him tight. "Promise." Adrian's throat closed. "Promise." Isabella stood, took Leo's hand, pressed the elevator button. As the doors slid open, she turned back, one last time, and said nothing. Didn't need to. Her eyes said it all. "You had everything, and you threw it away." The elevator doors closed. The penthouse echoed. Adrian stood there, king of his empire, master of his fortune, architect of his destiny. Alone, utterly, devastatingly alone. Sophia arrived that evening, champagne in hand, red dress clinging to her curves, smiling like she'd won the lottery. "You did it," she purred, wrapping her arms around him. "You're free." He didn't hug her back, didn't smile, just stared past her shoulder at the empty hallway, at the silence, at the ghost of a family that used to live there. "Yeah," he whispered. "Free." She kissed his neck. "Let's celebrate." He didn't stop her, didn't want to, didn't feel anything. That night, as Sophia slept beside him, her breathing even, her dreams untroubled, Adrian lay awake, staring at the ceiling. He thought about Leo's smile, Isabella's perfume, the sound of her laughter, real, unguarded, the kind that used to fill the apartment like music. He thought about the promises he'd broken, the love he'd abandoned, the son who still believed in him, and for the first time in his life, the man who never lost, felt like he'd lost everything. He didn't know it then, but the real punishment wasn't the divorce. It wasn't the loneliness. It was the waiting for the day Leo would stop asking for him, the day Isabella would stop saving his favorite coffee mug, the day the world would stop seeing him as a husband, a father, a man, and start seeing him for what he truly was, Tycoon, a ghost, a man who chose the wrong thing and would spend the rest of his life paying for it. The clock ticked, the city glittered, and somewhere, in a small apartment with thin walls and creaky floors, a little boy whispered into the dark, "Mommy?" When his daddy coming home, and his mother, strong, shattered, sacred, held him close and lied, "Soon, baby, soon." She didn't cry, not yet. She just stared at the ceiling, listening to the neighbor's TV through the thin wall, counting the seconds between Leo's snores from the next room. She was tired, not the kind sleep fixes, the kind that settles in your bones, the kind that makes you wonder if you'll ever feel light again. The depression didn't announce itself, crept in. On rainy afternoons when Leo was at school and the silence pressed against her skull like a vice. In the mirror when she didn't recognize the woman staring back, hollow-eyed, lips chapped, hair unwashed. In the grocery store when she reached for Adrian's favorite coffee beans out of habit and had to put them back. She stopped dancing, stopped smiling at strangers, stopped answering calls from friends who said, "You'll bounce back, Bella. You're strong." Strong? She felt like glass, one wrong touch away from shattering. Adrian sent money, lots of it. Transfers so large they made her bank app glitch. He sent gifts, designer clothes for Leo, a new laptop for her, a luxury stroller just in case. She returned them all, except the child support, that she kept. For Leo, She didn't want his guilt wrapped in silk. Sophia, meanwhile, was everywhere. Magazine covers, Instagram stories, charity galas with Adrian's arm around her waist, her hand possessively resting on his chest. She wore Isabella's favorite shade of red, smiled with Isabella's smile, even started calling Leo our son in interviews. The world bought it. Leo didn't. "Mommy, why does that lady say she's my mommy?" he asked one night, pointing at a tablet screen where Sophia laughed beside Adrian at some gala. Leo's name embroidered on her clutch like a trophy. Isabella closed the screen gently. "She's confused, baby. That's all. But Daddy lets her say it." Isabella's hands trembled. She pulled him close. "Daddy's figuring things out." Leo was quiet for a long time. Then, "Does he miss us?" Her breath caught. "Yes, sweetheart. I think he does." "Then why doesn't he come home?" She had no answer. The breaking point came on a Tuesday. Adrian's lawyers filed for full custody. The reason? Emotional instability of the mother. Attached? Screenshots of Isabella's late-night Google searches. How to survive divorce. Can depression make you a bad mom? What to do when you feel like disappearing? And worse, a video, grainy, taken by a nanny cam Sophia had accidentally left on during a visit. Isabella, curled on the couch, sobbing while Leo slept down the hall. Voice whispering, broken. "I can't do this anymore. I'm so tired. Please, someone help me." It wasn't manipulation. It was truth. But in court, truth didn't matter. Perception did. The hearing was brutal. Adrian sat stiffly in his tailored suit, eyes fixed on the judge, not once looking at Isabella. Sophia sat beside him, perfectly poised, tissue dabbing at dry eyes. Isabella sat alone. No lawyer, no friends, just her, and the crushing weight of being judged for her pain. The judge, a woman with tired eyes and a sharper tongue, flipped through the documents. "Ms. Volkov," she began, voice cool, "your ex-husband alleges you're emotionally unfit to care for your son, that you've shown signs of severe depression, that you've expressed suicidal ideation in front of the child." Isabella's hands clenched in her lap. "I never said that in front of Leo. Never. That video was taken while he was asleep. I was breaking, but I never let him see it. I protected him, even when I couldn't protect myself." The judge nodded. "And yet, you returned to teaching ballet. You enrolled him in school. You kept a clean home. No reports of neglect. No complaints from teachers." Adrian shifted uncomfortably. Sophia cleared her throat. "Your Honor, with all due respect, a child needs stability, structure, a mother who's present, not one who spends her days crying on the couch." Isabella turned to her then, eyes blazing. "And what do you know about being a mother? Sophia, you've known Leo for 6 months. You bought him a robot and called it love. You don't know his nightmares, his allergies, the way he hums when he's nervous. You don't know him." Sophia smiled sweetly. "I'm learning, and I have the emotional capacity to be there for him. Something you clearly lack." The judge held up a hand. "Enough." Silence. Then, "Given the evidence, I'm granting temporary primary custody to Mr. Volkov. Ms. Volkov will have supervised visitation, 2 weekends a month, until further psychological evaluation confirms her stability." Isabella's world stopped. "No," she whispered. "No, please. He's my son. I'm all he has." The judge's voice softened just a fraction. "This isn't permanent, Ms. Volkov. Get help. Show me you're healing. Then we'll revisit." Adrian stood, didn't look at her. "I'll send a car for Leo on Friday." She lunged forward, not to hit him, not to scream, to beg. "Adrian, please, don't do this. He needs me. I need him." He finally looked at her, ice cold, distant, like she was a stranger. "You had your chance, Isabella. You broke. I can't let Leo pay for that." She collapsed into her chair, hands over her face, silent sobs shaking her shoulders. Sophia placed a hand on Adrian's arm. "Let's go, darling. Leo's waiting." They took Leo on a Friday. Isabella stood in the doorway, barefoot, hair tangled, clutching his favorite blanket. Leo clung to her legs. "Mommy, why do I have to go? I don't want to leave." She knelt, tears streaming, voice trembling. "You're not leaving forever, baby. Just for a little while. Daddy wants to spend time with you. That's all. But I want to stay with you." She kissed his forehead, his cheeks, his hands, memorizing him. "I know, sweetheart. I know. But you have to be brave. For me. Okay, be brave." He nodded, sniffling. "Will you come get me?" Her throat closed. "Every weekend. I promise." Adrian stood by the car, arms crossed, face unreadable. Sophia opened the back door. "Come on, Leo. We got you a new room. With a slide." Leo looked at his mother, eyes wide, terrified. Isabella forced a smile. "Go, baby. I'll see you soon." He let go, walked to the car, didn't look back. The moment the car pulled away, Isabella sank to the floor. Screams tore from her throat, raw, guttural animal. She clawed at her arms, at her hair, at the floor, at anything that would make the pain stop. She screamed until her voice broke, until her throat bled, until there was nothing left but silence. That night, she didn't sleep. She sat on the floor of Leo's empty room, hugging his pillow, breathing in the fading scent of his shampoo. She opened her laptop, typed, "How to disappear," closed it, opened it again, typed, "How to get my son back." And then, for the first time in months, she cried. Not quiet tears, not hidden sobs, ugly, heaving, soul-crushing cries that shook the walls. She cried for Leo, for herself, for the love she'd lost, for the mother she was afraid she'd never be again. The next morning, she showered, washed her hair, put on real clothes. She walked to the community center down the street, the one with the cracked mirrors and squeaky floors. She signed up to teach again, not for money, not for pride, but for Leo, because if she was going to get him back, she had to become the woman he believed she was. Strong, unbreakable, his mother. Meanwhile, across town, Adrian tucked Leo into his new bed. King-sized, canopy, toys piled in every corner. "Do you like it?" Adrian asked, smoothing the blanket. Leo nodded, quiet, distant. "You'll see Mommy this weekend. She'll come get you." Leo didn't smile. "She promised." Adrian hesitated. "She will." Leo rolled over, faced the wall. "Night, Daddy." Adrian kissed his head. "Night, champ." As he closed the door, he heard Leo whisper, so soft, Adrian almost missed it, "I miss my old room." Adrian stood in the hallway, frozen. Sophia appeared beside him, slipping her arm through his. "He'll adjust. Kids are resilient." Adrian didn't answer. He walked to his study, poured a drink, sat in the dark. And for the first time since he left Isabella, he wondered if he'd made a mistake. Isabella taught her first class that Saturday. 5 little girls, ages 6 to 9, worn leotards, second-hand shoes, eyes bright with dreams. She didn't dance with them, not yet. She sat on the floor, cross-legged, smiling through tears. "Today," she said, voice shaking but clear, "we're not going to learn pirouettes. We're going to learn how to fall and get back up." One girl raised her hand. "What if you're too sad to get up?" Isabella's breath caught. She looked at the girl, small, freckled, eyes too old for her face. "Then you let yourself cry," Isabella whispered. "And when the tears run out, you stand. Even if you're shaking, even if you're scared, you stand. Because someone out there is waiting for you to come back to them." The girls didn't understand, but Isabella did. And for the first time in months, she felt something. Not happiness, not peace, but purpose. Leo's first weekend visit was a disaster. Isabella picked him up in a borrowed car, her old one repossessed, and took him to the park. She packed his favorite snacks, his favorite blanket, his favorite book. He barely spoke, didn't run, didn't laugh, didn't hug her back. "Are you mad at me?" she asked, voice trembling as they sat on a bench, watching ducks. He shook his head. No. Then why are you so quiet? He looked at her, eyes too serious for an 8-year-old. Daddy says you were sad. Too sad to take care of me. Her heart shattered. Oh, baby, I was sad. But I was never too sad to love you. Never. He was quiet. Then, Sophia says you don't want me anymore. Isabella grabbed his face, forcing him to look at her. Listen to me, Leo Volkov. I want you more than the moon, more than the stars, more than all the oceans. I will always want you, no matter what anyone says, no matter where you sleep. You are my heart, my soul, my everything. Do you understand? He nodded, slowly, tears in his eyes. I missed you, Mommy. She pulled him into her chest, held him so tight he squeaked. I missed you too, baby. So much it hurt. They sat like that for an hour, her crying silently, him clinging to her like she might vanish. When it was time to go, he didn't let go of her hand. I don't want to leave, he whispered. She kissed his head. I know, sweetheart, but you have to, for now. But I'll fight for you. Promise. I'll fight like a lion. He looked up. Like Simba? She smiled through tears. Exactly like Simba. That night, Isabella made an appointment with a therapist. She started journaling, started running, started fighting. Not with lawyers, not with Adrian, but with herself. Because if she was going to get her son back, she had to become the woman Leo believed she was. The woman Adrian forgot. The woman Sophia could never be. And Adrian? He watched Leo that night. Quiet, withdrawn, clutching Isabella's photo under his pillow. He walked into his walk-in closet, now half filled with Sophia's designer gowns, and pulled out an old shoebox. Inside, ticket stubs, a dried rose, a note in Isabella's handwriting. Even on the hard days, I choose you. He sat on the floor, alone, in the dark, and for the first time since he left her, he cried, not for himself, but for Leo, for the boy who missed his mother, for the man who didn't know how to fix what he'd broken. The war for Leo had begun. And Isabella? She was no longer the wounded wife. She was the warrior mother. He didn't argue, because tonight wasn't about charity. It was about coronation, his rebirth, her ascension, their future polished, perfect, public. Sophia stood in front of the mirror in their penthouse, adjusting the strap of her emerald green gown. Custom Dior, flown in from Paris, slit high enough to make headlines, neckline low enough to steal breath. Diamonds dripped from her ears. Her hair, sleek and obsidian, cascaded over one shoulder like liquid night. She turned to Adrian, who was knotting his bow tie with mechanical precision. Nervous? She asked, smirking. He didn't look up. Should I be? She stepped closer, fingers brushing his collar. You're unveiling your new life tonight, darling. The world will finally see us, really see us. The power couple, the future, the family. She lingered on the last word, deliberate, possessive. Adrian's hands stilled. He thought of Leo, quiet lately, retreating into books and silence, clutching Isabella's old scarf like a security blanket. He thought of Isabella, teaching ballet in that crumbling community center, her Instagram flooded with photos of smiling children, her eyes alive again, fiercer than he remembered. He said nothing. Sophia kissed his cheek. Smile, Adrian. Tonight we win. The grand ballroom glittered like a jewel box, crystal chandeliers dripping light, marble floors reflecting a sea of designer gowns and tailored tuxedos, champagne flutes clinking like wind chimes in a storm. Cameras flashed. Reporters shouted names. The elite of the city, CEOs, senators, socialites, milled like peacocks in silk and satin. Adrian and Sophia entered arm in arm. The crowd parted. Applause rippled. Cameras exploded. She beamed, radiant, victorious, every inch the queen. He smiled, practiced, polished, hollow. They posed, laughed, whispered to donors, shook hands, accepted praise like royalty. Adrian Volkov, the man who rebuilds cities, one reporter gushed. Sophia Mendez, the genius behind his rebrand, and his heart. Another cooed. Sophia leaned into the mic, voice honeyed. We're so excited to launch the Volkov Future Fund, dedicated to children's education, mental health, and family unity. She squeezed Adrian's arm. He didn't squeeze back. Behind them, a massive screen flickered to life. A looping video of Adrian and Sophia at orphanages, handing out books, hugging children, Leo occasionally in frame, smiling stiffly beside them. The message was clear. This is the new Volkov legacy. This is the new family. This is the truth. Backstage, minutes before his speech, Adrian loosened his bow tie. His palms were sweating. His heart, a traitor, pounded like a war drum. Sophia adjusted his lapel, eyes gleaming. You're going to kill it. Just remember, when you announce our engagement, pause for the cameras. Let them capture your face. Let them see how happy you are. He stared at her. You're sure about this? Tonight. She laughed. Why wait? The world's watching. Let them see what real love looks like. He didn't correct her. Didn't tell her that real love didn't need an audience. Didn't need a script. Didn't need to be announced. Real love showed up, even when no one was watching. Leo sat in the front row, tiny tuxedo crisp, hair combed, face unreadable. Sophia had dressed him like a prop. Matching pocket square, patent shoes, a smile she'd coached into him over breakfast. Smile big for Daddy's big night. Okay? She'd said, pinching his cheeks. He hadn't smiled. Not once. Now he sat beside her, legs swinging, eyes scanning the crowd. Not for Adrian. For her. The MC's voice boomed through the speakers. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the visionary behind the Volkov Future Fund. The man redefining legacy. Mr. Adrian Volkov. Thunderous applause. Adrian stepped onto the stage, blinding lights hitting his face, teleprompter scrolling his rehearsed lines. He cleared his throat, opened his mouth, and froze, because standing at the top of the grand staircase, framed by velvet curtains and golden light, was Isabella. Not broken, not hiding, not begging. She stood tall, regal, radiant, wearing red. Not just any red, the color of fire, of warning, of resurrection. The dress hugged her like a second skin, elegant, fierce, slit high on one leg, neckline daring but dignified. Her hair, once always pulled back, cascaded in dark waves over one shoulder. Her lips, painted the same shade as her dress, were pressed into a calm, unreadable line. And beside her, Leo, their Leo, not Sophia's, not the gala's, hers. He wore a miniature tux, black bow tie perfectly centered, shoes polished, hair combed. But his face, oh, his face was pure, unfiltered joy. He held her hand tightly, looked up at her like she was the sun. The crowd noticed. Whispers rippled. Cameras swiveled. Flashbulbs exploded. Adrian's breath caught in his throat. Sophia's grip on his arm turned to iron. What the hell is she doing here? She hissed, nails digging into his skin. Adrian didn't answer. Couldn't, because Isabella began to walk. Down the staircase, onto the red carpet, past the gawking guests, past the shouting reporters, straight toward the stage, toward him. Leo didn't wave, didn't smile for the cameras. He walked with the solemn dignity of a child who had learned too early what betrayal felt like, and had chosen his side. Isabella didn't look at Adrian, didn't glare, didn't cry. She looked ahead, calm, collected, unbreakable, and with every step, the room grew quieter, until all you could hear was the click of her heels, and the pounding of Adrian's heart. Sophia stepped forward, forcing a smile, waving at the cameras like nothing was wrong. Darling, maybe we should stay back, Adrian whispered, voice raw. She turned to him, eyes blazing. Control this, now. But Adrian couldn't move, couldn't speak, couldn't breathe, because Isabella had stopped. 10 feet from the stage, 10 feet from him. She finally looked up, met his eyes, and smiled. Not a smile of anger, not a smile of pain, A smile of quiet, devastating victory. Leo tugged her hand. "Mommy, can we go sit now?" She nodded. "Of course, baby." And then, without a word to Adrian, without a glance at Sophia, she walked past them, past the stage, past the cameras, to the very last row of seats, where no one had thought to look, where she sat down, crossed her legs, placed her clutch on her lap, and waited. The room was in chaos. Reporters shouted questions. Guests craned their necks. The MC stammered, unsure whether to continue. Adrian stood frozen on stage, teleprompter forgotten, speech meaningless. Sophia grabbed the mic from the MC's trembling hand. "Ladies and gentlemen, please, let's not let a family matter distract from tonight's beautiful mission." Her voice was bright, too bright, desperate. No one listened. All eyes were on the back of the room, on Isabella, on Leo, on the woman who had walked into her ex-husband's triumph and stolen it with silence. Adrian finally moved. He stepped down from the stage, ignored Sophia's hissed protests, ignored the cameras, ignored the crowd. He walked toward the back, toward her. His footsteps echoed like gunshots. He stopped in front of her. She didn't stand, didn't look up, just smoothed Leo's hair. "Isabella," he whispered. She finally lifted her gaze and smiled. "Hello, Adrian." Her voice was calm, cool, collected, like she hadn't just shattered his world, like she hadn't just walked through fire to sit in the ashes. "Why are you here?" he asked, voice cracking. She tilted her head. "You invited me." He blinked. "What?" She reached into her clutch, pulled out the invitation, same cream parchment, same gold embossing. "You sent it to my old address. Maid forwarded it." She tucked it back. "I thought Leo should see his father's big night." Leo looked up at Adrian. "Hi, Daddy." Adrian's throat closed. "Hi, champ." Silence. Then Leo. "Mommy got a new dress. She looks pretty, right?" Adrian's eyes burned. "Yes, she does." Isabella didn't react, just patted Leo's knee. "Sit up straight, baby. The speech is about to start." Adrian didn't move. "Isabella, please. Not here. Not tonight." She finally looked at him. Eyes sharp, voice soft. "Why not? It's a celebration, isn't it? A family, a future, of love." She paused. "Or is it just a show?" He flinched. She stood then, slow, graceful, towering over him in her heels. She leaned in, close enough that only he could hear. "I didn't come to ruin your night, Adrian." He almost believed her. Then she whispered, "I came to remind you what you threw away," and sat back down. Back on stage, Sophia was improvising, laughing too loud, gesturing too wide, desperate to reclaim the spotlight. Now, as Adrian prepares to share his vision, Adrian walked back to the stage, face pale, hands shaking. He took the mic, cleared his throat, looked out at the crowd, then past them, to the back, to her. And for the first time in his life, he had nothing to say. The room waited. Cameras rolled. Sophia's smile was frozen in place. Leo watched his father, eyes wide, hopeful. Isabella watched him too, not with hate, not with sorrow, with quiet, unbearable pity. Adrian opened his mouth, closed it, looked down, and walked off the stage, leaving Sophia alone, leaving the crowd stunned, leaving the cameras rolling, leaving his empire crumbling. Isabella didn't move, didn't gloat, didn't smile. She just took Leo's hand and whispered, "Ready to go, baby?" He nodded. "Yeah, this place is boring." She stood, smoothed her dress, walked toward the exit, head high, heels clicking, Leo skipping beside her. No one stopped her. No one dared. Outside, the night air was cool. The city glittered. Paparazzi swarmed, shouting questions, cameras flashing. Isabella didn't stop, didn't speak, just hailed a cab, helped Leo inside, slid in beside him. As the car pulled away, Leo looked back at the glowing hotel. "Do you think Daddy's mad?" Isabella stared ahead, voice soft, steady. No, baby. I think he's finally awake. Inside the ballroom, chaos reigned. Sophia screamed at staff. Guests whispered. Reporters filed breaking news alerts. Tycoon's ex crashes gala with their son. Volkov Foundation launch implodes in real time. Who is the real Mrs. Volkov? Adrian stood in a dark corner, back against the wall, tie undone, staring at his phone. A notification popped up. From Leo's school. Parent-teacher conference reminder. Isabella Volkov and Adrian Volkov. Thursday, 3 p.m. He stared at it. Then slowly he typed a reply. I'll be there. The gala continued without him. The speeches, the toasts, the announcement of the engagement never made. Sophia stood alone on stage, diamond ring glittering under the lights, smile plastered on like war paint. No one clapped, no one cared, because the real story was already gone, walking away, in red, with her son, and her dignity. Adrian didn't sleep that night. He sat by the window, staring at the city, replaying every step Isabella took down that staircase, every click of her heels, every glance, every silence. He thought about Leo's hand in hers, about the way she didn't beg, didn't break, didn't need to. She had walked into his world, the world he'd built without her, and reminded everyone with a single step that some things money can't buy. Dignity, motherhood, love that doesn't leave. And as dawn painted the sky in pale gold, Adrian Volkov, tycoon, titan, self-made king, realized with crushing clarity, he hadn't left her. He had lost her, and nothing. Not his fortune, not his foundation, not his new fiancée, could fill the space she left behind. The gala hadn't even ended, and already he had lost. But the night wasn't over, because Isabella, she wasn't done. And Leo, he was just getting started. The war for his soul had begun. And Adrian, the screaming kind, the kind that swallows ballrooms whole, the kind that freezes champagne flutes mid-sip, the kind that turns 1,000 glittering eyes into one single stunned stare, all aimed at the top of the grand staircase, where she stood. Isabella, not in shadows, not in whispers, not in the past. Here, now, alive. And beside her, Leo, their son, his son, wearing a tiny tuxedo that fit him like armor, holding her hand like it was the only thing keeping him grounded in a world that had tried to tear them apart. Adrian's breath left his body in one ragged gasp. His knees nearly buckled. Sophia's grip tightened, nails biting into his skin, but he didn't feel it. All he felt was the thunder in his chest. All he saw was the red, that damn red. The dress clung to Isabella like a second skin. Not seductive, not desperate, sovereign. The slit revealed just enough leg to command attention, the neckline just daring enough to whisper rebellion. Her hair, dark and wild, cascaded over one shoulder like a waterfall of midnight. Her lips, painted the same shade as her dress, were pressed into a line so calm, so composed, it was terrifying. She didn't smile, didn't glare, didn't cry. She just existed, and in that existence, she unraveled him. The crowd didn't move, didn't breathe, didn't blink. Cameras, 100 of them, swiveled as one. Flashbulbs detonated like silent bombs. A reporter near the front dropped her notepad. Someone whispered, "Oh my God, is that her?" Another, "The ex? She looks unreal." A third, "And the boy, he's with her?" Sophia hissed through clenched teeth. "What the fuck is she doing here?" Adrian didn't answer. Couldn't, because Isabella began to walk. Down the staircase, each step deliberate, each click of her heels echoing like a heartbeat. Thud, thud, thud. The room parted like the Red Sea before Moses. Guests stepped back. Waiters froze, trays trembling. The string quartet faltered, a violin screeching off-key, then fell silent. She didn't look at Adrian. Not yet. She looked ahead, at the path she was carving through his kingdom, at the throne she refused to kneel before, at the son walking beside her, small, solemn, eyes scanning the room not for wonder, but for safety. For her. Leo didn't wave, didn't smile, didn't play the part Sophia had rehearsed with him over breakfast. Smile big, Leo. Daddy's going to be so proud. He walked like a soldier, like a prince, like a child who had learned that love wasn't in grand stages or flashing lights. It was in quiet hands, in whispered lullabies, in mothers who showed up, even when the world told them to disappear. Adrian finally moved, not toward the mic, not toward Sophia, toward her. He stepped off the stage, shoes clicking against marble. The crowd didn't part for him. They watched, hungry, waiting. He stopped 10 feet away, close enough to see the flecks of gold in her eyes, close enough to smell her perfume. Jasmine and vanilla, the scent of their first apartment, of Leo's first bath, of promises whispered in the dark, close enough to see the scar on her left knuckle, from when she fell learning a new routine and he kissed it better. She finally looked at him and smiled, not the smile of a scorned wife, not the smile of a broken woman, the smile of a queen who had walked through fire and emerged unburned. "Hello, Adrian," she said, voice soft, clear, calm, like they were meeting for coffee, like he hadn't shattered her world, like she hadn't just shattered his. He opened his mouth. Nothing came out. Leo tugged her hand. "Mommy, can we go sit now? My feet hurt." She patted his head. "Of course, baby." And then, without another word, she walked past him, past Sophia, past the cameras, past the gaping mouths and whispered scandals, to the very last row, where no one had reserved a seat, where no one had thought to look. She sat, crossed her legs, placed her clutch on her lap, and waited. Sophia stormed forward, mic in hand, voice shrill with forced cheer. "Ladies and gentlemen, please, let's not let a family matter distract from tonight's beautiful mission." No one listened. All eyes were on the back, on her, on the woman who hadn't screamed, hadn't begged, hadn't needed to. She had walked into his coronation and dethroned him with silence. Adrian stood frozen, heart hammering, hands shaking, sweat beading at his temples. He turned, looked at Sophia. Her smile was cracking, her eyes wild, panicked. "Fix this," she whispered, voice trembling. "Now." He didn't move, couldn't, because Leo looked up at him from the back row and whispered, loud enough for the front tables to hear, "Daddy, why didn't you tell me Mommy was coming?" The room gasped, cameras whirred, phones lifted. Sophia's face went pale. Adrian's throat closed. He walked back to the stage like a man marching to his own execution, took the mic, cleared his throat, opened his mouth, and said nothing. The teleprompter scrolled. "Tonight marks a new chapter. Together, we will build a brighter future. I am proud to stand beside the woman who changed my life." He looked down, looked up, looked at Sophia, desperate, furious, glittering with diamonds and dread, looked at the crowd, hungry, scandalized, electrified, looked at the back, at Isabella, who met his gaze, and blinked, once, slow, like she was giving him a chance to speak, to explain, to beg. He opened his mouth, closed it, looked down, and walked off the stage, leaving Sophia alone, leaving the mic live, leaving the empire crumbling. The room erupted, gasps, shouts, cameras sprinting toward the back, reporters shoving past waiters. "Ms. Volkov, a word, please." "Leo, how does it feel to be here with your mom? Is this a reconciliation?" Isabella didn't answer, didn't stand, didn't flinch. She just took Leo's hand, stood, and walked toward the exit, heels clicking, head high, red dress blazing like a warning. Leo skipped beside her, suddenly lighter, suddenly free. "Mommy, can we get ice cream after this?" She smiled, real, warm, alive. "Absolutely, baby." They reached the doors. Paparazzi swarmed, shouting, flashing, shoving. Isabella didn't stop, didn't pose, didn't speak. She shielded Leo with her body, pushed through, into the night, into the waiting cab, into the quiet. Inside the ballroom, Chaos reigned. Sophia screamed at the event planner. Guests whispered behind gloved hands. The live stream hit 2 million views. Headlines wrote themselves. Gala implodes as Tycoon's ex arrives with their son. In red. Volkov Foundation launch crumbles in real time. Who wears the crown? The mistress or the mother? Adrian stood in a dark alcove, back against the wall, phone trembling in his hand. A notification popped up. From Leo's therapist. Parent-teacher conference reminder. Isabella Volkov and Adrian Volkov. Thursday, 3 p.m. Leo has requested both parents attend. He stared at it, thumbed open his messages, typed, "I'll be there," sent. Then slowly, he looked toward the doors Isabella had walked through, and whispered, voice raw, broken, "What have I done?" Sophia found him minutes later, eyes blazing, voice a whip. "You humiliated me. You walked off stage. In front of everyone." He didn't look at her. She's his mother. She's nothing. A washed-up dancer with a sob story and a grudge. Adrian finally turned. Ice cold. Voice lower than she'd ever heard it. "She's the woman who raised our son while you were picking out diamond necklaces. She's the woman who held him when he cried, who sang to him when he was scared, who fought for him when I turned my back." He stepped closer. "And tonight, she didn't come to ruin me. She came to remind me and the world that some things can't be bought, can't be replaced, can't be erased." Sophia laughed sharp, brittle. "You're in love with her again." He didn't deny it, didn't confirm it, just walked away. Outside, the city glittered. Inside the cab, Leo pressed his face to the window. "Mommy, do you think Daddy's sad?" Isabella stared ahead, voice soft, steady. "Yes, baby, I think he is." "Good." She looked at him, surprised. He met her gaze. "I'm serious. He should be sad. He made you cry." Her breath caught. She pulled him close, kissed his forehead. "No, sweetheart, he made a mistake. And sadness is how we learn." Leo was quiet. Then, "Will he learn fast?" She smiled, sad, sweet. "Sure. I don't know, baby, but we'll be here when he does." Back at the hotel, Adrian stood on the balcony, tie undone, staring at the skyline. The empire he built, the life he was losing. His phone buzzed. A text from his assistant. "Sir, the board is requesting an emergency meeting. The stock is down 7%. He didn't reply. Another buzz. "Sophia, fix this or I go public with everything." He deleted it. Another buzz. A news alert. Video. Leo Volkov asked if Sophia is his mother. His response is breaking the internet. He clicked. The video played. Leo standing beside Isabella at the gala exit. A reporter shoving a mic in his face. "Leo, is Sophia your new mommy?" Leo didn't hesitate. Looked straight into the camera. Voice clear, calm, devastating. "No, she's the lady who made my daddy forget me. My mommy? She never forgot." The video had 10 million views. And climbing. Adrian sank to his knees, hand over his mouth, shoulders shaking. Not from anger, not from shame, from grief, from the crushing, suffocating weight of realization. He hadn't just lost Isabella, he'd lost Leo's heart. And no amount of money, no gala, no foundation, no Sophia, could buy it back. The night wasn't over, the war wasn't won, but the first battle belonged to her, to the woman in red, to the mother who walked through hell and came out holding her son's hand. Adrian didn't sleep. He sat by the window, watched the sun rise, and for the first time in his life, he prayed, not for forgiveness, not for redemption, but for a chance, just one, to look into his son's eyes and say, "I'm here, I'm sorry, I'm yours." But dawn brought no miracles, only silence, and the echo of her heels, clicking. He didn't move, didn't speak, didn't breathe, because all he could see, burned into his retinas, seared into his soul, was the image of Leo walking away, hand in hers, head high, eyes forward, not looking back, never looking back. Sophia stormed toward him, heels like daggers against marble, face twisted in fury barely masked by glittering foundation. "You let her win," she spat, voice low, venomous. "In front of everyone. You stood there like a statue while she stole your night, your son, your legacy." Adrian didn't look at her. He looked past her, at the doors, at the space where Isabella had stood, where Leo had smiled, not for cameras, not for show, but for her. "Adrian," Sophia grabbed his arm, nails biting. "Say something. Do something. Call security. Sue her for breach. Leak something to the press. Anything." He finally turned, eyes hollow, voice flat. "She's his mother." Sophia recoiled like he'd slapped her. "She's nothing. A nobody. A has-been clinging to scraps of relevance." Adrian's jaw tightened. He pulled his arm free. "She's the woman who held him when he had nightmares, who kissed his scraped knees, who stayed up all night when he was sick, who fought for him when I walked away." Sophia laughed, sharp, brittle, desperate. "And now she's using him as a prop. Did you see that dress? That red? That was calculated. That was war." Adrian didn't answer, because she was right, and that was the worst part. Isabella hadn't come to beg, hadn't come to scream, hadn't come to break. She'd come to remind him, to remind the world, that love doesn't need permission, that motherhood doesn't need approval, that dignity doesn't need an audience. She'd walked into his empire, polished, perfect, pristine, and shattered it with silence, with presence, with a child's hand in hers. The crowd was still buzzing. Reporters shoved toward the back row, now empty, shouting questions into dead air. "Ms. Volkov, a statement, please." "Leo, how did it feel to reunite with your mom on the red carpet? Is this the beginning of a custody battle comeback?" Cameras zoomed in on Adrian, pale, sweating, eyes glazed with something between shock and sorrow. A live stream ticker scrolled at the bottom of every screen. Breaking. Volkov gala implodes. Ex-wife's shock entrance with sun sparks global outrage. Hashtag who is the real Mrs. Volkov trending worldwide. Adrian's phone buzzed once, twice, 10 times. Board members, investors, lawyers, his assistant. "Sir, the Nasdaq is reacting. We need damage control. Now." He ignored them all, walked to the edge of the stage, looked out, not at the glittering guests, not at the flashing lights, at the empty seat in the back row, where she'd sat, where she'd waited, where she'd won. Sophia grabbed the mic again, forcing a smile so wide it looked painful. "Ladies and gentlemen, let's not let this unexpected moment overshadow the true purpose of tonight. The launch of the Volkov Future Fund, dedicated to..." A voice cut through the room, clear, calm, young. "Mommy says charity isn't real if you do it for photos." Every head turned. Leo, standing near the exit, one hand still clutching Isabella's, the other holding a half-eaten chocolate croissant from the dessert table. He hadn't left yet. He was still here, watching, waiting, speaking. The room fell utterly silent. Even Sophia froze. Leo looked around, not scared, not shy, just a matter of fact. "Mommy says real giving doesn't need a stage, or cameras, or fancy dresses." He took a bite of the croissant, chewed, swallowed. "She gives dance lessons to kids who can't pay. She doesn't post it. She just does it. Every day." A reporter near the front dropped her recorder. Leo looked at Adrian then, eyes wide, innocent, devastating. "Daddy, why do you only help people when they're watching?" The silence that followed was absolute. No breaths, no clicks, no whispers, just the hum of the chandeliers and the pounding of 1,000 hearts. Adrian's knees nearly gave out. Sophia's smile shattered. Isabella didn't move, didn't speak, didn't need to. Leo had said it all. A journalist near the front finally found her voice. "Leo, sweetheart, what do you think about Sophia? Is she like a mommy to you?" Leo turned, looked straight into the camera. Voice steady, clear, final. No. She's the lady who bought me a robot and told me to call her Mom. My mommy? She didn't buy me toys. She bought me time. She didn't take pictures with me. She took care of me. She didn't leave. Even when Daddy did. The video went viral before he finished speaking. 10 million views. 20 million. 50 million. Hashtag Leo Volkov Speaks trended in 17 countries. Sophia lunged forward, voice shrill. That's enough. Security. Escort them out. Isabella finally moved. Stepped in front of Leo. Not aggressively. Not angrily. Protectively. Like a lioness. She looked at Sophia. Eyes calm, voice colder than winter. You don't get to touch him. You don't get to speak to him. And you certainly don't get to call yourself his mother. Sophia's face twisted. You have no rights. The court gave you paperwork. Isabella interrupted, voice low, lethal. It didn't give you his heart. It didn't give you his trust. It didn't give you the right to erase me. She stepped closer. And if you ever try to silence him again, I will burn your world to the ground. Sophia flinched. Actually flinched. The crowd gasped. Cameras flashed. Adrian didn't move. Couldn't. Because for the first time he saw her. Really saw her. Not the woman he left. Not the ghost he mourned. The warrior. The mother. The force of nature who had clawed her way back from the abyss. Not for revenge. But for him. For Leo. Isabella turned to her son. Smiled, warm, real, radiant. Ready to go, baby? Leo nodded, mouth full of croissant. Yeah, this place smells like perfume and lies. A few guests actually laughed. Isabella took his hand. Walked toward the exit. Didn't look back. Didn't need to. The doors opened. Paparazzi exploded, shouting, shoving, cameras blazing like gunfire. Isabella didn't stop. Didn't pose. Didn't speak. She wrapped her body around Leo's, shielding him, guiding him through the storm, into the night, into the waiting black sedan, into silence. Inside the car, Leo buckled himself in, still chewing. Mommy, do you think Daddy heard me? Isabella stared ahead, voice soft, steady. Yes, baby, I think he did. Good. He wiped chocolate from his lip. He needed to. She reached over, squeezed his hand. You were so brave. He shrugged. I just told the truth. She kissed his forehead. The bravest thing anyone can do. Back inside the ballroom, chaos reigned. Guests were leaving. Some in disgust, some in fascination, all chattering into phones. Sophia was screaming at the event manager. The live stream had crashed from traffic. Adrian's phone buzzed non-stop. His CFO, stock down 12%. Institutional investors pulling out. We need a statement. His lawyer. Sophia is threatening to file a defamation suit against Isabella. Do we support her? His PR head. The internet is calling you a deadbeat dad. We need damage control. Now. Adrian didn't answer. He walked to the bar, poured a glass of whiskey, drank it in one burning swallow, then another, and another. Sophia found him there, eyes blazing. You're going to fix this. You're going to go on TV. Deny everything. Blame her. Say she manipulated Leo. Say she's unstable. Say anything. Adrian stared into his glass. No, Sophia grabbed his arm. What? He looked up, eyes hollow, voice raw. I'm not going to lie anymore. Not about her. Not about Leo. Not about us. Sophia's face twisted in fury. You're choosing her? After everything I've done? After everything I've been? Adrian stood, towered over her, voice skipped beside her, suddenly lighter, suddenly free. Mommy, can we get ice cream after this? She smiled, real, warm, alive. Absolutely, baby. They reached the doors. Paparazzi swarmed, shouting, flashing, shoving. Isabella didn't stop, didn't pose, didn't speak. She shielded Leo with her body, pushed through, into the night, into the waiting cab, into the quiet. Inside the ballroom, chaos reigned. Sophia screamed at the event planner. Guests whispered behind gloved hands. The live stream hit 2 million views. Headlines wrote themselves. Gala implodes as Tycoon's ex arrives with their son. In red. Volkov Foundation launch crumbles in real time. Who wears the crown? The mistress or the mother? Adrian stood in a dark alcove, back against the wall, phone trembling in his hand. A notification popped up. From Leo's therapist. Parent-teacher conference reminder. Isabella Volkov and Adrian Volkov. Thursday, 3 p.m. Leo has requested both parents attend. He stared at it, thumbed open his messages, typed, "I'll be there," sent. Then slowly, he looked toward the doors Isabella had walked through, and whispered, voice raw, broken, "What have I done?" Sophia found him minutes later, eyes blazing, voice a whip. "You humiliated me. You walked off stage. In front of everyone." He didn't look at her. She's his mother. She's nothing. A washed-up dancer with a sob story and a grudge. Adrian finally turned. Ice cold. Voice lower than she'd ever heard it. "She's the woman who raised our son while you were picking out diamond necklaces. She's the woman who held him when he cried. Who sang to him when he was scared. Who fought for him when I turned my back." He stepped closer. "And tonight, she didn't come to ruin me. She came to remind me, and the world, that some things can't be bought, can't be replaced, can't be erased." Sophia laughed sharp, brittle. "You're in love with her again." He didn't deny it, didn't confirm it, just walked away. Outside, the city glittered. Inside the cab, Leo pressed his face to the window. "Mommy, do you think Daddy's sad?" Isabella stared ahead, voice soft, steady. "Yes, baby, I think he is." "Good." She looked at him, surprised. He met her gaze. "I'm serious. He should be sad. He made you cry." Her breath caught. She pulled him close, kissed his forehead. "No, sweetheart. He made a mistake. And sadness is how we learn." Leo was quiet. Then, "Will he learn fast?" She smiled, sad, sweet. "Sure. I don't know, baby, but we'll be here when he does." Back at the hotel, Adrian stood on the balcony, tie undone, staring at the skyline. The empire he built, the life he was losing. His phone buzzed. A text from his assistant. "Sir, the board is requesting an emergency meeting. The stock is down 7%. He didn't reply. Another buzz. "Sophia, fix this or I go public with everything." He deleted it. Another buzz. A news alert. Video. Leo Volkov asked if Sophia is his mother. His response is breaking the internet. He clicked. The video played. Leo standing beside Isabella at the gala exit. A reporter shoving a mic in his face. "Leo, is Sophia your new mommy?" Leo didn't hesitate. Looked straight into the camera. Voice clear, calm, devastating. "No, she's the lady who made my daddy forget me. My mommy? She never forgot." The video had 10 million views. And climbing, Adrian sank to his knees, hand over his mouth, shoulders shaking, not from anger, not from shame, from grief, from the crushing, suffocating weight of realization. He hadn't just lost Isabella, he'd lost Leo's heart, and no amount of money, no gala, no foundation, no Sophia, could buy it back. The night wasn't over, the war wasn't won, but the first battle belonged to her, to the woman in red, to the mother who walked through hell and came out holding her son's hand. Adrian didn't sleep. He sat by the window, watched the sun rise, and for the first time in his life, he prayed, not for forgiveness, not for redemption, but for a chance, just one, to look into his son's eyes and say, "I'm here, I'm sorry, I'm yours." But dawn brought no miracles, only silence, and the echo of her heels, clicking. He didn't move, didn't speak, didn't breathe, because all he could see, burned into his retinas, seared into his soul, was the image of Leo walking away, hand in hers, head high, eyes forward, not looking back, never looking back. Sophia stormed toward him, heels like daggers against marble, face twisted in fury barely masked by glittering foundation. "You let her win," she spat, voice low, venomous. "In front of everyone. You stood there like a statue while she stole your night, your son, your legacy." Adrian didn't look at her. He looked past her, at the doors, at the space where Isabella had stood, where Leo had smiled, not for cameras, not for show, but for her. "Adrian," Sophia grabbed his arm, nails biting. "Say something. Do something. Call security. Sue her for breach. Leak something to the press. Anything." He finally turned, eyes hollow, voice flat. "She's his mother." Sophia recoiled like he'd slapped her. "She's nothing. A nobody. A has-been clinging to scraps of relevance." Adrian's jaw tightened. He pulled his arm free. "She's the woman who held him when he had nightmares, who kissed his scraped knees, who stayed up all night when he was sick, who fought for him when I walked away." Sophia laughed, sharp, brittle, desperate. "And now she's using him as a prop. Did you see that dress? That red? That was calculated. That was war." Adrian didn't answer, because she was right, and that was the worst part. Isabella hadn't come to beg, hadn't come to scream, hadn't come to break. She'd come to remind him, to remind the world, that love doesn't need permission, that motherhood doesn't need approval, that dignity doesn't need an audience. She'd walked into his empire, polished, perfect, pristine, and shattered it with silence, with presence, with a child's hand in hers.